Dog the Bounty Hunter, of all people, has been making a lot of public appearances lately. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy, but he's like a TV show bounty hunter who goes around and busts people's door in and takes them to jail for money, blah, blah, blah. That's what he does, and as it turns out, he is far right. I mean, God, does it get more right-wing than this guy? More Christian nationalist extremist than him? I don't know. This dude is out there. Let me just give you a couple of examples to show you what I mean when I say this guy is deeply, deeply Christian nationalist and absolutely nutter butters. This came out late September 2022. I'm not sure what he was at here. DogCon? I have no idea. I don't know what he was doing. But listen to his little speech here.
Wait till November when the Republican Party, I think I met one Christian Democrat, have you? When the Republican Party...
Okay, I can't just let that slide. There are tons and tons and tons of Christian Democrats. But, here's the point he's trying to make. You aren't a Christian unless you are part of the Republican Party. You aren't a Christian unless you're a right-wing extremist. You have to be, or God won't save you. That's what it's all about with these people. He's not the only one that's espoused this idea. I'll show you more in a minute, but keep listening here.
When the Republican Party wipes them out.
So he thinks the Republicans are going to wipe out Democrats in the 2022 midterms.
Wait till November. Wait till November. I don't care how many ballot boxes there are. I don't care how they try to cheat. Wait till you see what happens.
Okay, first of all, this guy looks like Neelix from Voyager, right? From Star Trek Voyager. Yeah, I just need to type Neelix. I don't even need to type the rest. Let's just look at a picture of Neelix. Tell me that Dog the Bounty Hunter doesn't look exactly like Neelix from the side. Does that look just like Neelix or what? It's a spitting image of Neelix, right? It's Neelix. Is this actually Neelix? Weird. Anyways, if it's possible, I mean, midterms haven't happened yet, but I guess it's theoretically possible that Republicans will wipe out Democrats in midterms. If they do, is this a prophecy from Dog? As a matter of fact, it is. This guy is telling us that God told him that the Democrats would be wiped out in the midterm elections 2022. So what happens when that doesn't happen, hypothetically? What's his response then? His response is they cheated. And if he succeeds, if his prophecy does happen to come true, he was right. See how that works? Either the Democrats cheated or they lost. There is no fair election in his mind if he doesn't win. That is the destruction of democracy. This headspace, this mindset right here is the destruction of democracy. We're watching it happen.
I told you this morning, little Hitler, and if you'll remember, Hitler...
Of course, little Hitler is supposed to be Joe Biden. It's deeply disgusting that he would refer to him as that, and I'll get into why in a minute, but keep listening.
Hitler committed... Hitler, you know why? Because he was caught. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to catch these cheaters. And I'm not saying with my mouth or my...
Right, is he saying that they haven't already caught those cheaters, quote unquote? I think that's kind of funny because that's all Dog's been talking about for like 2 years now is how Democrats cheated. Constant. It's like a nonstop fire hose of it. So when are they going to catch him, Dog? If they never do catch him, are you ever going to admit you were wrong? Of course he won't.
Mouth or my tongue that cheaters. And I'm not saying with my mouth or my tongue that he's going to commit. But you never know.
So he's not saying with his mouth or his tongue that this is going to happen, but you never know. That first of all, this is not something to be happy or jokey about. Look at the shit-eating grin on the guy's face as he talks about this. And second, what else would you say it with but your mouth or tongue? I guess with a pen? I think what he meant when he said that is he's not prophesying it. He's not saying that God told him that this is going to happen, but you never know. Depraved. disgusting. Celebrating people getting hurt. That is a line I would absolutely never cross. This is a difference between me and the people that I criticize. It's not about political or religious ideologies and the differences between them with me. The people that I criticize are fundamentally different in the sense that they are willing to take pride and happiness and be gleeful over people getting hurt or dying. They encourage it. They use stochastic terrorism to their benefit. They break laws and cheat and lie and manipulate and do whatever it takes to win, to get their side a leg up. I would never do something like that. Never. That is the fundamental difference. That's really what I'm criticizing. I'm not necessarily criticizing the things that they believe. I'm criticizing their tactics, their propaganda methods. It's absolutely disgusting behavior. Interestingly enough, he actually tells us why he believes that God is allowed Biden to win the 2020 election. I talked about cognitive dissonance recently. Cognitive dissonance is this anxiety that's induced by your beliefs and reality not matching. So Leon Festinger is a writer and a psychologist who wrote a book back in the 1950s, I think 1954. The name of the book was When Prophecy Fails. The book was about a UFO cult called the Seekers, and they deeply to the bottom of their hearts believed that there's going to be a flood that's going to wipe out all of mankind on, I think, December 21st, 1950-something or other. I don't remember exactly now. And they believed that the aliens were going to come pick them up before the flood. And they all had to be together in this one little room before the flood hit so that they could be beamed up to the mothership. When that didn't happen, when they all gathered into a group together waiting for the mothership, and the hour ticks down and passes, what happened? Nothing. There was a cognitive dissonance in their head that they didn't know how to resolve. There was this stress, this anxiety that they had to alleviate in some way. And this book, When Prophecy Fails by Leon Festinger, is where the term cognitive dissonance was coined. He created the term for this book. Now, you can alleviate that anxiety that's induced by the dissonance between, or that's induced by the differences between your beliefs and reality. You can alleviate that stress a number of ways. One of which is changing your beliefs. That's the most ideal one, obviously, but it's the one that people like Dog the Bounty Hunter almost never take. Another way is to convert as many believers to your side as possible. If you can convince others that you are correct about what you believe, it makes it easier for you to believe it yourself. Another way to alleviate this stress, this anxiety that is cognitive dissonance, is to bend the story around until it fits both your beliefs and your reality. So do whatever it takes to make them merge together seamlessly. If there are a couple of gaps here and there that don't really add up, then that's okay. You just ignore those. That's what cognitive dissonance is, and that's what we witness with these people. You can see the stress play out in front of us. Now, with all that in mind, listen to what he says here, because this clip is about him explaining why, despite the fact that all these prophets prophesied Trump was going to win the 2020 election, why he lost. He's going to explain why Biden is the president, even though in his theology he shouldn't be.
So I prayed, Lord, why have you led us in this way? Why did you let that freak steal the election? Why did you do this? And once I tell you why, you're going to agree with me. The Lord took me to the Bible, and Jesus' disciples came up to him and said, God, Jesus, why was this man born blind? Was it the sins of his father and his mother?
Before we continue, just step back a little bit. Did you catch what he said there? Listen to this one more time, this one section here.
Came up to him and said,
right here.
and once I tell you why, you're going to agree with me.
If it's true, why is it something people would have to agree with? This is something that could be tested and verified as a real fact. This isn't a factual claim. This is an opinion claim. And this is him building up a narrative and explanation to alleviate the stress in his mind. That is cognitive dissonance. Trying to come to terms with the fact that the things that he believes and reality don't match up with each other. So he's offering up an explanation to people, hoping that this will alleviate their cognitive dissonance anxiety also.
I tell you why, you're going to agree with me. The Lord took me to the Bible, and Jesus' disciples came up to him and said, God, Jesus, why was this man born blind? Was it the sins of his father and his mother that made him blind? And
well, I think in some cases, am I correct in saying that God actually did curse like children for different generations for a while? Eventually, I think that whole idea of cursing generations was removed, like God disapproved of it. But yeah, I think that's in there. Not for nothing, you know.
blind? And Jesus said, no, that's not why this bad thing happened. The reason this bad thing happened is that to show God's manifestation.
Okay, so his explanation, his route to alleviating the stress that is cognitive dissonance is to claim that despite the fact that these prophets foretold and prophesied from God that Trump is going to win the election, despite that fact, God allowed Trump to lose even though he told the prophets he would win, so that people would see God's hand working. Wasn't that the point in the first place? Wasn't God telling the prophets that Trump was going to win in the first place because he wanted to show that he was real or show his manifestation of his power or whatever? And aside from that, why would he do that in the first place? Doesn't the Bible say, don't put the Lord your God to the test or something like that? Doesn't it specifically say, don't test God? Is this not a test? See, in the process of creating this or bending his beliefs around reality to make it fit just right, like a piece of clay he's forming around a ball, in his attempt to do so, it's leaving more holes. It's leaving more, it's just blowing giant holes in the plot. Nothing is coming together cohesively because he's changing the ideas for everything. But it doesn't matter. You know what matters? His cognitive dissonance on this one issue is alleviated. And if he doesn't look too closely at every other issue in the Bible, if he chooses not to read the verse about not putting God to the test or whatever else, he won't have to deal with the cognitive dissonance anymore. He won't have to deal with that stress. That's what we're watching play out right now. And he's got a shit-eating grin like he just one-upped the Democrats or whatever.
There's nothing we could have done about it. Not at all. Yeah, he stole it because now, little Hitler, we are going to show you God's manifestation.
We're going to get to the little Hitler comments that he keeps making in a minute, probably at the end of this video. I'm going to address that because there's some relevant stuff in there to talk about. But check out this next clip. This one's from late July 2022. This is another example of Dog the Bounty Hunter going on Flashpoint, this TV show that's run, owned and operated by Kenneth Copeland. It's like this ultra-religious far-right TV show on the Victory Network, a far-right ultra-religious network. This is Dog the Bounty Hunter's appearance on there. Listen to this.
I'm known by taking the guy, slapping him up a little bit.
Yeah, he seems to be proud of that. I don't know who would be proud of slapping somebody up. It's disgusting.
Giving him a cigarette and pushing Jesus down his throat.
Again, why would you be proud of this? Look, neither here nor there, but I do just want to point out there are a disproportionate number of Christians in jail right now. Atheist prison population makes up 0.07% of inmates, when the general population is 6% atheist. So 6% versus 0.07%. Not 0.7%, 0.07%. That's how small it is. Christian prison population. Hang on, I'm just looking here. This is 538. They're pretty reputable. Wow, Jehovah's Witnesses make up 0.7% of the prison population. I'm surprised. That's more than atheists, like by a lot. Okay, I can't really find just a flat Christian number. It's split into Protestant, Catholic, Muslim, Native American, pagan, Jewish, Buddhist, Seventh-day Adventist, Mormon, Eastern Orthodox, and a lot of these are Christian denominations. So 28.7% are Protestant, 24% are Catholic, just trying to hit the Christian denominations. 1.5% are Church of Christ, 0.7% Jehovah's Witness, 0.3% Seventh-day Adventist, 0.3% is Mormon, 0.2 is Eastern Orthodox. Those are the main ones. Yeah, that's the prison population. We're looking at a grossly high percentage of Christians in prison versus atheists in prison. I'm just saying, if you are capturing bad guys, quote unquote, maybe the last thing you want to do is shove Jesus down their throat. Maybe that's what got him into this mess in the first place. Now, that's not fair. That's not fair. Christianity and the prison population are correlated, but correlation is not causation. So Christianity is not causing people to go to jail. I just want to put that on record. That was unfair of me to even say. But anyways, keep listening. I got off on a little tangent there, but yeah, just keep listening to what he says.
It's called the backseat ride. No, I do not come to bring peace, but a sword. Mothers shall turn against daughters, daughters against fathers, and this is war.
You know, there is that verse in the Bible. That's fair enough. That's true. It is in there. There are also verses in there that talk about loving your neighbor as yourself, not judging lest ye be judged, all this other stuff that related to Jesus being peaceful and loving and not hating anybody for anything. That verse is in there, though, and I think it's interesting to point out the fact that he picked the violent, hateful verse to go with, when he could have chosen to pick the happy-go-lucky, loving verse to go with. The Bible is not a moral guide for anybody. It is impossible to use the Bible as a moral guide. The Bible is only a reflection of your own morals. It can't possibly be more than that because it contradicts itself every other verse. If you have a moral or spiritual or whatever belief on any subject, you can find a Bible verse to defend it, and he just found one to defend his extremism.
It is no longer Republicans against Democrats.
That's right.
It's Christians against evil.
Now that is disturbing. That is a disturbing trend that I have found running through Christianity very recently, and I feel compelled to talk about it. I'm going to talk about that in just a second and why that's so disturbing, but before we get there, I do just want to point out that this guy, Dog the Bounty Hunter, has effectively become a part of prophecy among the religious right. This is Hank Kunneman. He's a supposed prophet of God. He's one of the prophets who claimed that God told him that Donald Trump was going to win the 2020 election. And when he didn't, of course, he claimed that it was stolen and that, he really won and blah, blah, blah. All the other stuff that they say. I mean, he's one of those people. So listen to what he says about Dog the Bounty Hunter and his role in prophecy.
God is not going to ignore what happened in 2020, November 3rd of our election.
By the way, this is happening late March 2021 when Hank Kunneman says this. This is like this is a year and a half after the election ended, basically. Over a year after Biden had been inaugurated, and they're stuck on it.
In 2020, November 3rd of our election, the enemy wants it to go away. The media wants it to go away. Those that are in the circus house wants it to go away. But God is not going to rest. Now, why is Dog here tonight? Because I believe there's a spiritual bounty by the hand of God that is over those that have done injustice. They've done it to the children.
Dog the Bounty Hunter appears on the Flashpoint program, and Hank Kunneman uses that as a pretext to claim that there's a spiritual bounty on who?
They've done it to the children. They've done it in the earth.
I guess on his political enemies, and he's just blaming everybody for this. This is insane.
They've done it concerning our government, our politics.
This is just nuts, dude. These people are not in reality with the rest of us. Okay, now, a minute ago, I told you I was going to talk about why it's so deeply concerning to hear this become a standard talking point in the Republican Party.
And this is war. It is no longer Republicans against Democrats.
That's right.
It's Christians against evil.
Let me tell you why it's so deeply concerning to hear things like that from so many people. He is by no means the only one I've heard it from. Greg Locke said it not too long ago. Mike Lindell's been saying it for like ever. I mean, people have been saying that. Roger Stone said it not too long ago, and I have these clips. Before we continue, I just wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. Or you can check out my Telltale Unfiltered channel. I go through long-form, unhinged sermons from all kinds of people, from Hank Kunneman to Greg Locke to Jehovah's Witnesses. So give it a look. Links are in the description. Okay, now back to the video. But let me show you why it's so concerning that people are saying this stuff, that people like Dog the Bounty Hunter and others are saying this. This is a video from 1942 called Don't Be a Sucker. It was created as a method of preventing Americans from falling into the same trap that the Nazis fell into in the 1930s and the 1940s. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. Listen to just the opening part here.
They can live together and work together and build America together because they're free. Free to vote, to say what they please, go to their own churches, to pick their own jobs. Yeah, Mike's got something, all right. He's got America. But there are guys who stay up nights figuring out how to take that away from him.
I want to give you the truth, folks. The truth about America.
Now listen to this guy and tell me if it sounds familiar to you.
I know you've got a lot of questions. You want to know why you're not getting the breaks you deserve. Well, I'm not a politician, but I've made it my business to study these things, and I happen to know the facts. Now, friends, I'm just an average American. But I'm an American, and some of the things I see in this country of ours make my blood boil. I see people with foreign accents making all the money. I see Negroes holding jobs that belong to me and you.
Does any of this sound familiar? Seriously. Have you heard anything recently about immigrants taking our jobs and all that other stuff?
Now I ask you, if we allow this thing to go on, what's going to become of us real Americans?
I've heard this kind of talk before, but I never expected to hear it in America.
This fellow seems to know what he's talking about.
Yes, he knows all right.
What's the answer? What are we real Americans going to do about it? You'll find it right here in this little pamphlet. The truth about Negroes and foreigners. The truth about the Catholic Church. Now, friends, these books are free. Paid for by real Americans who want others to know the truth.
Excuse me, young man, but are you actually going to read that stuff?
Sure, why not? You heard what he said, didn't you?
Yes, I heard. But do you believe in that kind of talk?
I don't know, makes pretty good sense to me.
I'm speaking to you as an American.
See, when people divide you up and give you somebody to blame for all of your problems and tell you that you're a king and you should be treated as such, and the only reason that you're not is because of this group over here, it suckers people in. That's why the name of this video is don't be a sucker. This was the strategy of the Nazi Party back in the 30s in Germany. This is what they did. They divided people up into categories, into groups, and said, these people are to blame, and those people are to blame, and those people shouldn't exist at all. And if you're a member of this group, the master race, Aryans in Germany, in America, it would be Christian nationalists, then you deserve everything. And if you don't have it, then it's everyone else's fault.
And I tell you, friends, we'll never be able to call this country our own until it's a country without. Without what?
Yeah, without what?
Without Negroes. Without alien foreigners. Without Catholics. Without Freemasons. You know these people.
What's wrong with the Masons? I'm a Mason. Hey, that fella's talking about me.
And that makes a difference, doesn't it?
These are your enemies. These are the people who are trying to take over our country. Now you know them. You know what they stand for. And it's up to you and me to fight them. Fight them and destroy them before they destroy us. Thank you.
See, one guy was clapping at the end because everybody else in that group probably fell into one of those categories that he listed, a Freemason or a Catholic or whatever else. I think that's the point the video is trying to make.
Before he said Masons, you were ready to agree with him.
Well, yes, but he was talking about, what about those other people?
But in this country, we have no other people. We are American people, all of us.
What about you? You aren't American, are you?
I was born in Hungary, but now I am an American citizen. And I have seen what this kind of talk can do. I saw it in Berlin.
What were you doing there?
I was a professor at the university.
You know, there's some strong language in this, but I feel like it's important to play it anyways. I feel like this is such a deeply valuable video to listen to, at least just parts of it. Honestly, it's like 30 minutes long. Can't watch the whole thing today, but it is a deeply valuable and important message that everybody should see. Every single person in America, in my opinion. Like I said, don't be a sucker is the name of it. We're going to watch just a couple more minutes of it, but you should look it up on your own time if you want and just see what it's all about.
I heard the same words we have heard today. But I was a fool then. I thought Nazis were crazy people, stupid fanatics. But unfortunately, it was not so. You see, they knew that they were not strong enough to conquer a unified country. So they split Germany into small groups. They used prejudice as a practical weapon to cripple the nation.
You notice what he said there? They use prejudice as a practical weapon to cripple a nation? That's more true than people realize. Hatred and racism are not something that people are born with. This is a point they make later in the video, too. I don't know if we'll get to it or not, but hatred and racism and prejudice are taught. They are not innate parts of human nature. Now, you may favor one tribe or another tribe. You know, you may prefer to go with this group or that group or whatever. That's not the same as hatred, bigotry, and racism. They're very different. Hatred, bigotry, racism, sexism, those are all taught. If you have some part of your brain that feels that way or felt that way at some point, it's because it was taught to you. That's not a normal feeling that people should have, racism or hatred toward others.
Of course, that was not easy to do. They had to work hard to do it. You see, we human beings are not born with prejudices. Always they are made for us, made by someone who wants something.
That is a scientific fact, what he just said. We are not born with prejudices. They're made for us, made by somebody who wants something.
Remember that when you hear this kind of talk, somebody is going to get something out of it, and it isn't going to be you. This is not classroom theory. I saw it happen. I saw it first in Berlin in 1932.
Now, this is where it really relates back to Dog the Bounty Hunter. Remember what he said earlier? This is war. This isn't a battle between Republicans and Democrats. It's a war between good and evil, us and them.
5 young men that I knew were standing in the crowd listening to the Nazi speaker. Eric was a Catholic. Anton, a student of mine, was a Jew. Heinrich owned a small hardware store. Karl was a farmer. And Hans was an unemployed metal worker.
To all true Aryan Germans, I say it is time you inherited the nation which rightfully belongs to you. To you alone belongs the glorious destiny of the greater Germany. The Nazi Party will provide land for the farmer, work for the worker, and profits for the small businessman. Who is getting these things now? The Jew.
I mean, this is a little bit on the nose and a little obvious. No, this is actually exactly how it played out in Nazi Germany, but it's a little bit obvious for us in today's political climate. They're usually a little more veiled about the message, but this is exactly how it starts. This is exactly what's happening right now. Do you remember all that stuff back in 2016? Donald Trump blaming immigrants. They said they're not sending their best. They're sending drugs. They're sending crime. They're blank. I mean, you guys remember these messages, right? We've been hearing this stuff from the Republican Party for years. For years. It sounds exactly like what this Nazi is saying in this old 1942 video.
The Jew who has stolen our nation and our birthright. Who makes all the money and takes all our jobs? The Jew! He must be shunned. He must be ostracized. He must be eliminated. And the Catholics. We don't want our great nation run by a foreign church. We Germans will know what to do with these people when the time comes. They and their faith must be destroyed. Then there are the Freemasons. In Germany, we have no place for secret societies.
I'm just going to skip forward a little bit because there's one more part that I really want to hit on. Listen to what he says here.
Each minority, and he split them off one from the other. These men were all fellow Germans when they came here today. Now they were split into rival groups, suspicious of each other, hating each other. They were being swindled, all of them. But the man who was really being fooled was Hans. He was pure German, according to Nazi standards. To him they promised everything, and he fell for it.
I can't play the whole thing in this clip, but if you want to see a longer breakdown, it releases on my channel. You know, it may already have released on my main channel. Just Owen Morgan, parentheses, Telltale. If you want to see the whole thing, you can watch the breakdown there. But the point is, what Dog the Bounty Hunter is saying and doing here is exactly how the Nazi Party split people into groups and destroyed them. That is not hyperbole. That is not me being nervous over nothing. This is like we can watch history unfold in front of us. This is real shit.
Democrats. That's right. It's Christians against evil.
Instead of the Aryan race being the master race, it's now Christians. And not just Christians, but these people's very specific denomination of Christianity. This evangelical denomination. That's what we're dealing with now. This is the new Nazi Party, and I say that without a lick of irony or hyperbole. We should be concerned. If you disagree with anything I've said, let me know in the comments or on Twitter at Telltale Atheist. I'm watching Don't Be a Sucker right now, made in 1947. It's amazing how well it's aged. Great message. Can't believe it was made 80 years ago. I appreciate that. Yeah, I thought it was 1942. It said in the description that it was a series of lessons from produced from 1942 to 1947. So maybe it is 1947. Unsure. If it is, I'll find out, and I'll insert that in the final clip. But anyway, yeah, it's fantastic. Your long-lost pal. It's straight-up dehumanization of the political opposition. Those against us are irredeemably evil, comparable to Adolf H. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, it is disturbing on entirely new levels. I am blown away by the fact that they don't see the comparisons. That's probably because a lot of the people who were around to see the rise of the Nazi Party are gone. You know, they've aged out now, and they're not around to explain that what's happening around us right now has happened once before. There's a meme that left-wingers call everybody Nazis, everyone's a Nazi, blah, blah, blah. I'm 100% comfortable calling certain people Nazis if that's what it looks like, if that's what it is. I don't care if you are in support of Hitler or not, but what you're doing is exactly what the Nazi Party did back in the 30s to dehumanize and hate and spread bigotry and destroy. It's the same thing, exact same thing.